Last time, we witnessed Gorino, a monk of the Brotherhood of Shinsei, begin his rise to prominence. First, by helping popularize cremation as the new de facto funerary procedure of the empire, and then by proposing the radical idea that there should only be 5 great clans. He was arrested for his trouble, only to be released by the good word of the emperor. However, while the monk was planning his political comeback, other affairs were afoot in the Emerald Empire, and it began in the year 520 with a dispute between 2 brothers, Daimyo Daidoji Kame and his younger brother Daidoji Hira. No mention is made of what relations the 2 brothers had prior to 520, but in 520 Hira began acting in ways that were unbecoming of a samurai of his rank and were highly embarrassing to his brother and the Daidoji family. Things like leaving a dead mouse in front of the door to the quarters of a visiting lion envoy, or scolding a visiting member of the Kakita family for the entirely standard procedure of testing a sword blade on live condemned criminals. One time, the Daidoji lord caused such a scene at a local market that he had to be removed in a wheelbarrow. At this point, Kame headed up to here with his brother's nonsense and ordered his brother to commit seppuku. Only thus might Hira atone for his ridiculous actions and the shame that he was bringing to the family. Instead, Hira fled with 44 followers, leaving behind only a message saying, "You did not set the date for my death, brother. Seek me in the Uebe Marshes if you wish to hasten it." The Uebe Marshes are swamplands in Tsubishi province along the southern part of the eastern coast, lands that belonged to the Daidoji family. Its only noteworthy feature being its propensity for exuding luminous marsh gases, which the superstitious locals called Foxfire. Hence, the resulting blood feud between these 2 branches of the Daidoji family would be known as the Foxfire War. Incensed by his brother's insult and defiance, Kame brought a sizable army down the coast to the Uebe Marshes to hunt for Hira. Of course, there are no significant details as to exactly how the war was fought, but given that the Daidoji are pragmatic to the point of ruthless when it comes to combat, quite unlike most samurai families, and the fact that Hira was outnumbered many times over, most likely the Foxfire War played out as a guerrilla campaign. And it turned out that, as unstable as he might have been, Daidoji Hira proved a masterful guerrilla fighter. Amidst the fog and the glowing marsh gases, he laid ingenious traps and ambushes for his brother's forces. So many of Kame's samurai died to these tactics that the Daidoji daimyo was forced to retreat with his remaining forces back up north to Shiro Daidoji. No doubt nursing the humiliation of this defeat, Kame returned home to the most incredible discovery of all, the body of his brother Hira in his former quarters at the castle. Dead by seppuku. The Daidoji pride themselves on their knowledge of military tactics. A great source of pride to the family is the Daidoji Library, a repository of written sources of military tactics, not just from within Rokugan, but even the tactics of the Gaijin. It also features an immense map room, a large-scale tactical recreation of Rokugan itself, upon which Daidoji strategists have plotted current campaigns or recreated old battles for analysis. And surrounding the corpse of Daidoji Hira was a recreation of the Uebe Marshes, complete with all the ambush points marked out. There was also a written missive to the Daidoji daimyo. "Do not let the food and drink of peace make the belly of the Daidoji grow fat. Seek my son in the marshes." Hira had finally obeyed his brother's command to kill himself, but it seemed that the war would go on. Perhaps this final act by his brother shook Daidoji Kame, for soon after he retired as a monk, passing the office of daimyo to his eldest daughter, Daidoji Kasako. In turn, leadership of Hira's band of rebels was taken up by his eldest son, Daidoji Yasuhira. It is unknown just how long the Foxfire War lasted, but it seems to have already claimed 1 generation of the Daidoji family. Yasuhira, it seemed, proved just as cunning and resourceful as his father. He even succeeded in increasing his ranks by inducting former Ronin of the Scorpion and Mantis clans. Yet again though, as with so many conflicts pre-clan wars, from here on out the details of the Foxfire War become vague to non-existent. It's only said in the sources that it took 3 years for Kasako and her forces to finally bring Yasuhira to bay. Her cousin was finally caught in his own headquarters, surrounded by yet more dioramas of the landscape, just as his father's body had been found. Also like his father, Yasuhira left a final written message. "My brother Shigehira and my men spit at you from the wall above the ocean." This last refers to the place known as Kabe Ue no Ho Nisa Umi, the wall above the ocean, a low mountain range that demarcates the crane crab border in the south. It would seem that the remaining rebels had chosen to change from guerrilla fighting in swamps to guerrilla fighting in the mountains. Once again, we have no details as to what happens next because when the story resumes, Kasako is no longer in charge. Her younger sister, Daidoji Kasami, now leads the Daidoji family. Meanwhile, her youngest brother, Daidoji Hanzo, is now the field commander of the Daidoji forces arrayed against Daidoji Shigehira. However, while Shigehira was committed to carrying on the fight his father had started, there was one among the rebel ranks who had begun to have second thoughts about it. Hira's youngest son, Daidoji Michihira. From the beginning of his father's rebellion, the followers of Hira had relied on smugglers and other illegal sources in order to maintain the supplies of food and war material needed to fight. At some point, Michihira, it seems, was placed in charge of this illicit supply network for the rebels. Now, having lost faith in the cause of his father and elder brothers, Michihira used this network to smuggle information about the rebel forces to Daidoji Hanzo. This intelligence proved pivotal, as it allowed Hanzo to finally run Shigehira and the remaining rebels to ground. Hanzo challenged his cousin to single combat with spears, and eventually defeated and killed Shigehira in the subsequent duel. With that, the Foxfire War was finally ended. Daimyo Daidoji Kasami decided to honor the troops who had helped Hanzo run the Hira rebels to ground by making them a vassal family of the Daidoji, named the Hiramori family, or the Hira of the Forests, in mockery of their defeated foe. The Hiramori would study and later become masters of the very ambush tactics that Hira had used during his guerrilla war against his own kin. For his role in the victory, Michihira was granted a pardon by his cousin. He requested to join the new Hiramori family, but Kasami refused him. She was well aware of the illicit means that Michihira had used to maintain the rebels, and felt that the new Hiramori family would be tainted by their association with him. However, the Daidoji family have always been the pragmatists of the Crane clan, and so Kasami instead made Michihira the daimyo of another vassal family, the Hiramichi, or the Hira of the Paths. This vassal family was formed from the smugglers and other illicit sources that Michihira had used to support his father and brother's rebellion. Before he had presented himself to Kasami, Michihira had sent to each of his contacts a bamboo cage containing a porcelain songbird, an unusual gift to say the least. After Kasami commissioned him and the founding of the Hiramichi family, he sent another missive to all his smuggler contacts, and they all said the same thing. "Has the caged bird not sung yet? Then you must be a loyal retainer." Thus, the Hiramichi was founded in an act of blackmail, and they would dedicate themselves henceforth to the study and execution of other such unscrupulous tactics: tax evasion, arms contraband, bribery, etc. Of course, such methods were only to be used when absolutely necessary and in the most extreme circumstances. After all, the Daidoji are nothing like the dirty, dishonorable Scorpion clan who resort to such things at a whim. Meanwhile, back in the rest of the empire, Gorino was beginning to accrue his first significant followers. He had plenty of support among the peasantry, at least, but the Empire of Rokugan is not a democracy, and so unless there are enough angry peasants with pitchforks and torches, their voices didn't really matter. If he was going to get his 5 rings, 5 clans idea off the ground, he was going to need support among the powerful. The first among these prominent followers were Kuni Watabe, daimyo of the Kuni family, and Isawa Ameku, a powerful void shugenja, whose talent for magic was exceeded only by his immense arrogance. He became the Master of the Void in 525, 6 years after Gorino made his great speech at Nikesake. Both Ameku and Watabe seemed to be sincere believers in Gorino's message, and they became the first big promoters, apart from the monk himself, of the Five Rings, Five Clans movement. However, Gorino's greatest coup in terms of allies gained occurred in 521, when Kitsu Eiji, daimyo of the Kitsu family, approached the monk on behalf of his master, Akodo Kento, the Lion Clan champion. Now, Gorino had the head of one of the great clans on his side, and since the Lion Clan are traditionally right hand of the Emperor, one of the most prestigious. However, unlike Watabe and Ameku, Kento's reasons for supporting Gorino were more cynical. Following the great speech at Nikesake, various peasant revolts had erupted across Crane and Scorpion lands, as legions of peasants in those lands adopted Gorino's teachings and began demanding a union of the two clans of air. Given that the right hand of the Emperor has never gotten on all that well with either the left hand or the underhand, Kento saw Gorino's movement and the popular support he was drumming up among the peasants as a way of weakening the Scorpion and Crane clans, which of course could only benefit his own. The Lion Clan champion made his support for Gorino official the following year, 522, by requesting that the monk preside over the funerary rites of Akodo Samune, a recently deceased warrior who had fought bravely at the Battle of Stolen Graves. This made it clear to all in the Empire that the Lion Clan was firmly backing the monk's play. And so, the following year of 523, the year of Daidoji Yasuhira's death in the Foxfire War, Kento ordered the construction of a monastery near Seikitsu Pass, in the foothills of the Spine of the World Mountains. It was to be called the Monastery of the Five Rings, and was to be dedicated to studying Gorino's teachings. With the commissioning of a new monastery came the creation of a new sect within the Brotherhood of Shinsei, the Order of the Five Rings. Gorino's great heresy had truly begun. Next time, war, religious strife, and a blood-speaker mini-kingdom in the heart of the Empire. Until then. He used to be called Citizen 625726. He used to call himself Unbroken. When he left his dystopian city behind, he thought he had found paradise. What he found was uglier and darker than anything he could have imagined. This is his story. This is Inferior. Now available in ebook, paperback, and audio form. Links in the description.